Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jazzy's Mixtape. This is not your typical episode, though. This episode is part of the Soul Searching series. I'm Jazzy, and I want to tell you that I'm not a therapist. I'm not a healthcare professional. I'm just a 20-something creative human living through a fucking pandemic and struggling to keep my head up. I'm embarking on a soul-searching journey, and I want to share it with you because I have a feeling that I'm not the only one who feels broken right now and is looking for their pieces. I think this is something we can do together, so let's get started. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Soul Searching series. We're here for our first official dive into the tools that I am using to reconnect with my soul, and the first tool that I want to talk about is astrology and how I'm using that to get to know myself. So before we get too deep into it, I do want to quickly explain the difference between astronomy and astrology. Astronomy is a natural science that studies celestial objects and phenomena. Astronomy is all about facts. It's scientific facts. So you wouldn't say, I believe that the Earth is the fourth planet from the sun, because you would just be wrong. You would be incorrect. We know scientifically that Earth is the third planet from the sun in our solar system, and that's just what it is, because that's a fact. Now, astrology is a quote-unquote pseudoscience that claims to divine information about human affairs and terrestrial events based on studying the movements and relative positions of celestial objects. So astrology is all about interpretation. There's no scientific fact to it. It's what you take of it, basically. So we're not talking about astronomy today, we're talking about astrology. Most specifically, we're talking about my birth chart, and hopefully this will inspire you listening to this episode to look into your birth chart, because it has been absolutely mind-blowing, eye-opening, and so interesting to learn about. I am not like a professional astrologist, obviously. I would absolutely love to have my birth chart read, though. So if you are a professional astrologist out there, or astrologer, hit your girl up, because I'm real curious. If you don't know what a birth chart is, it is also called a natal chart. It is basically a snapshot of the stars based on the exact day, time, and place that you were born. And it's very important to have the specific time that you were born, and I'm going to talk about this later because that's how you'll find your rising sign. But basically, with that information, we can see where each planet was, as well as the zodiac sign and house that they were in the very moment that you were born. Your birth chart is a glimpse of your character traits, behavioral tendencies, hidden desires, and the directions that your life might take. Now, if you've ever seen a birth chart, you might have been like me and felt extremely overwhelmed by it and confused by it, because it is not an easy thing to read. So I'm going to explain a few things that will hopefully help you read your birth chart a little bit better and understand it. So everyone has the 12 zodiac signs represented on their birth chart. You probably already are familiar with your sun sign, and that is the sign that you just need to know the day that you were born. For example, I was born January 7th, and that date falls in the Capricorn season, so I am a Capricorn. But you are more than just your sun sign. So the 12 zodiac signs are represented on your birth chart, and they represent personalities and character traits. For example, hardworking, stubborn, dramatic, things like that. You'll also see the 10 planets on your chart, and included in this is the sun, are the sun and the moon. Now, we know scientifically, based on astronomy, that the sun and the moon are not planets, but when we're talking about astrology and birth charts specifically, the sun and the moon fall in the category of planets. And the 10 planets represent mental functions. For example, ego, communication. And lastly, I'm sure there's more, but that I'm going to talk about would be the 12 houses. And houses are just numbered 1 through 12, and they represent a specific area of life. For example, marriage, career, and family. Now, if you're into astrology already, you might be familiar with the triad, or I like to call it the big three because it reminds me of This Is Us. Shout out to any This Is Us fans. But your big three is basically your three main signs. So that's your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign. I already talked about your sun sign. You just need to know the day that you were born. But your moon sign and your rising sign you find by getting your full birth chart. So you need all three of those specifics, the time, date, and place that you were born. Your sun sign is your sense of self, your individuality. I've heard it explained as like the capital of your chart. Like if you're looking, like your birth chart is a map of who you are and your life. Your sun sign is the capital of that state. So it's not the only city on your map, but it is kind of the hub of everything and where the most energy sort of flows. Your moon sign is your inner world and your emotions. It's connected to your intuition. And your rising sign, also called your ascendant, reveals the impressions that you make. It's how you present yourself outwardly to the world and how the world sees you. If you're someone who never really identified with their sun sign, you might be more in touch with your rising sign. So I highly recommend looking into that. I found my birth chart. I've looked on several different websites at several different points in my life, but most recently I went to astro.com to find my birth chart. I highly recommend going to that website. It seems to be one of the more accurate sites, but I also really enjoyed a few apps on my phone that I could kind of look at throughout the day, whether I was at work or at home or whatever I was doing. I could just quickly read up on a few things and just think about them throughout the day. So those apps, I have three of them to talk about today. The first one I want to talk about is the CoStar app. The CoStar app is very minimalist. It's literally black and white. There's no color on it. It's a beautiful layout, and it has these very convenient daily messages that I really like. However, I have heard that from people who are a lot more into astrology that CoStar is not the most accurate. So like all astrology, take it with a grain of salt, but specifically with the CoStar app, maybe, I wouldn't look to the CoStar app to get your full birth chart because you're not going to get that from them. But you will get daily sort of horoscope things, but it's a little bit more in depth than a horoscope reading. I like the way that this website or this app is laid out because you can add friends to it and you can read their charts and you can see how compatible you are and how you would work together. And that's always really interesting. Another app that I like to use is the Sanctuary app. Now, I have an Android, so this might not be the same if you have an iPhone, but right now on the Sanctuary app, you get your normal daily horoscopes, but you can't see your houses or your birth chart yet. There's a section for it, but when you click on it, it says coming soon. So right now you can just see your planets and your daily horoscope in it. I like this app because it's almost the complete opposite of the CoStar app. The Sanctuary app is very colorful and very modern. It feels like you're having a conversation with an astrologer. I have to figure out what the correct word is for that. But yeah, so when you're reading your horoscope, it's like you're having a text conversation with them. And I don't know, I really like that. I think that's cute. And I'm excited to see when they update it and we can get our houses and our birth chart, how I like that. I'll keep you guys posted. And the last app that I want to talk about is the Pattern app. The Pattern app is a little bit different because when you first sign up for it, you put in all the information that you would to get a birth chart. But once you are in it, all of the messages and advice that it gives you, it doesn't specifically tie it to anything in astrology. So it doesn't say, because your sun is in Capricorn, don't do this. Or because your moon is in Libra, you might be feeling this way right now. It takes away the language of the astrology and just says, you may have grown up feeling this way, and now because of certain events, you are overcoming that and growing as a person. I find it really interesting to read things like that because obviously it is based on astrology, but the fact that they don't tie it specifically to a certain zodiac sign or planet is just really interesting. You might have heard Channing Tatum talking about this app. He posted a video, and I'm pretty sure he was mostly joking, but he was super freaked out by this app because it's scarily accurate. And he said something like, they've been watching us for years. They know things that no one should know. And I haven't had any like huge moments in my life that I feel like I could go back. The thing with this app is it's by dates, so you can go back and search a certain date and it'll tell you what was going on in your life at that time and what you needed to do to move forward. So you can do that in the future also. You can go into the future and kind of see what's going to happen to you in 2022 or whatever, which I'm a little bit scared to do. I don't like future stuff. But yeah, so there's another video that I watched. I'll link that in the description. If you listen to this episode on YouTube, it'll be there. But the video that I watched was of a woman who was showing us specific dates in her Pattern app, and I think it was the date that she moved with her family. They moved out of their house. And another date she got into like a big car accident. And those are very, very big, pivotal moments in somebody's life. And her Pattern app very clearly knew all about that. And it was just very creepy, but very interesting. For me personally, there have been a few notes that have been like, huh. Like when I first signed up for the app, I remember lying in my bed and just crying at everything because it was just so real and so relevant. And I think I might have been shying away from that app for a while because it's been almost too real. But I highly recommend giving it a look. And it's the same thing as the CoStar app. You can add friends, you can add a partner, a romantic partner, and you can see how compatible you are, what kind of issues you might have in your relationship and how to work towards them. Same thing with friendships and same thing with family and coworkers. It's very, very, very interesting. So, what have I learned? Like I said, I'm not a professional. I don't know everything that's on my birth chart. But from the research that I've done, I feel like I've learned quite a bit, and my eyes have really opened up to some things I don't know if I would have really seen or paid attention to without going through this journey. So, the first thing that I learned was I learned that my rising sign is different than I thought it was for the past like however many years. But basically, the first time I ever looked into a birth chart was in 2018. And obviously, I had my time of birth incorrect, and it told me that my rising sign was Aries. And the sign Aries is very competitive, fighting spirit. They love to be a hero, very much a star that steals the spotlight and is confident and inspires people with their confidence. And even though I am not an Aries rising, after thinking about it and thinking about where I was at that time in my life, I kind of needed to feel connected to those traits because at that time in 2018, I had just come out. I was newly single after being in a relationship for 3 years, and I was finally starting to get back into acting. So now I have established myself and committed myself to the life of an actor. I'm out and I'm proud and I'm in a long-term relationship. So I don't really need to feel or portray myself as an Aries. So now that I know that my rising sign is actually Taurus, I admittedly am having a little bit of difficulty connecting with it, but I think I just need to sit with it a little bit longer. But a Taurus is sensual. They love the finer things in life. They know what they like, and that's that. They stick to their opinions and can be a little bit stubborn, but they're also loyal and dependable and very hardworking. So I just need to kind of figure out what kind of Taurus I am and what that sign means to me. But it makes sense that I'm feeling very transitional right now. I definitely feel like I am growing, not just mentally, but spiritually and physically. I can feel myself aging. And I don't want to think of that as a bad thing, but I'm definitely getting older and finding, not that I haven't been an adult this whole time, but finding kind of like what being an adult means. So I kind of see that Aries side of me as the more childish side, wanting attention and like being thrown into all these new situations and just wanting to go for it. And now I've transitioned out of that, and now I'm ready to really establish myself as the adult, quote unquote, Jazzy. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I said, it's a work in progress. I'm still sitting with it and figuring out what kind of Taurus I am. But yeah, so another thing that I learned on my birth chart, this was kind of a hard pill to swallow, but I was looking at my 10th house, and your 10th house represents your career and your work life. And as a Capricorn sun and Taurus rising, that's a lot of earth, a lot of hardworking ambitiousness, that's just embedded in me. I have the planet Saturn in my 10th house, and that planet represents or rules time. I was watching another YouTube video that I'll link in the description. This YouTuber was talking specifically about having Saturn in your 10th house, and she said that that probably means that you won't find your career or be like fully confident and developed and at the peak of your career until later in life. That was hard to hear because I'm 29 right now, and not to make everything about age, but it's hard to see, people younger than me succeeding faster than me, and just feeling like I'm losing some sort of race. And I am such a hardworking person. I've had several people tell me, Jazzy, you work so much, you need to just like chill. And that's what this person was saying, was that right now it's normal if you're younger, it's normal to feel like you're just constantly working and failing, but that's not actually what's happening. What's happening is you're mastering your craft. And then she said your 40s or late 30s. So that's literally like another decade away for me. But she said, yeah, so at that time later in your life, then you will be a master of your craft. That kind of sucked to hear, but also kind of made sense. There are lots of people who didn't actually like quote unquote make a name for themselves in any industry until they were older. And obviously I want to live a long life. I don't want to peak at 29, so that's fine. I just need to find a balance between working and enjoying my leisure time. I don't want to overwork myself, but I do want to make sure that I am staying focused and doing what I need to do to get where I want to be. The things that I really took away from that video was just realizing that I need to have patience with my career, and that not everything has to be about work. I need to make more time to relax and chill and enjoy my life now because my career will take off later in my life. I I almost feel like I've been living my life backwards because I was such a serious kid and teenager. I always worked really hard. I didn't really like hang out with, like, I had friends and stuff in high school, but like I hung out with them at like activities, like school activities. I wasn't like that high school kid that was sneaking out and going to parties. And I came out later in life. I was 27 when I came out. And now I'm kind of learning that I can enjoy the things that I enjoy, and I deserve to enjoy my life. And I don't have to be so serious all the time and so focused on my career. So, my goal for diving into astrology was to get to know myself and to be mindful of how I react to certain things and situations, and eventually letting go of some issues that I might have. I definitely feel good about doing this. Do I have more work to do? Absolutely. But the things that I've done so far, I feel have been super helpful. I'm excited to spend some more time in different houses and researching the planets that I have in there, and see what they have to say. There are these things called nodes that I looked into a little bit. You have your north node and your south node. So your north node is your purpose and where you're going with your life, and your south node is where you've been and your sort of karmic past. So I'm very curious to look into that and see what that has to say. But yeah, if you like this astrology talk and want to hear more, I definitely have a few friends that I think would love to be on the podcast, so we could talk more about that in other episodes. But I think I'm going to leave it at that for today and just continue on with the rest of my soul searching journey. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Jazzy's Mixtape. If you're on your own soul journey and want to share some things that you've discovered, make sure you use the hashtag the Soul Searching Series. We are in this together, friends, and I would absolutely love to see how your journey is going and what you're doing and what you're working on. If you didn't know, all the episodes will be on YouTube as well on my channel, so make sure you check them out and check out the description box for links to everything that I mentioned in this episode. That is all for now, my friends. Wishing you light and love, good vibes, and good tunes. See you next time.